UFC Vegas 88. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Tuivasa versus Tybura. Looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. And also note, no fight companion this Saturday. Your boy's going on vacation. I'm going to be out of the country, so we'll not be able to be live for this card. But listen, don't worry. I'll be back March 22nd for UFC Vegas 89 and every card thereafter. And the normal content flow is still going to be coming on the channel. Just no fight companion this coming Saturday. Let's get into the first fight on the card. Anheliger versus Grigoriou. I'm going to pick Grigoriou. I do think he's a more dangerous striker. He's got more punching power. Kind of got like a jackhammer right hand that he throws. I could see him stinging Anheliger. Notoriously, Anheliger is pretty durable, and he's a scrappy striker. He likes having the hands low sometimes and bringing shots from the hips. Doesn't have a bad wrestling game either. He's a tricky out for a UFC debut. Note that he's jumping in on a little bit of short notice here to take on Lampos. Let me double check. But yeah, it was initially supposed to be Toshiyomi Kazama versus Grigoriou. Arguably a harder fight though here with Anheliger, who's just got a more scrappy style, even though Kazama's got some pop in his hands and he's coming off a knockout win. I think that Anheliger is a tough test, and Grigoriou is a can crusher. I mean, you look at his fights outside of the UFC, 2-5. Joey Cristomos, 3-0 win, Efren Esquero. But I'll be honest, that dude didn't look good. I went back and watched that fight. I didn't think that dude looked good at all. Dissanel, journeyman, and then he knocked out Cameron Smotherman, who I like a lot, with one big shot, and that's what brings me confidence here. Grigoriou's got power. He trains at a good team in Longo Weidman, so he's going to have, any potential holes that are there with the grappling decently filled. I'm going to say Grigoriou has a chance for a knockout against the 37-year-old Anheliger, even though he hasn't been chinned yet. Elatang Haley's got a bit of pop. Jose Johnson, more of a sneaky striker with a well-rounded game, and he's real tall. He hasn't taken on in the UFC somebody with a one-punch thud, and I think Grigoriou, the Greek fighter, is live for this KO. Grigoriou to win is -175. He should be the favorite in this fight. Anheliger +150. And of course, it's a 1.5. Over under 1.5. That under gives you nice plus money at +175. I could see Grigoriou catching him in the first round. Anheliger, even though that hands-low style is effective sometimes, when you have a heavy-handed and knowledgeable striker with a lot of striking experience, Grigoriou's done Muay Thai before, I think Grigoriou's chinning him. I'm going Anheliger to get chinned. I'm going Grigoriou, knockout win, and I think he's going to look pretty good on the feet here and potentially stop the takedowns that Anheliger is definitely going to look to bring. Grigoriou KO, the hands will be the difference maker. Next fight on the card, ladies going after it. Cory McKenna versus Jaqueline Amorim. I'm picking Cory McKenna. I refuse to pick the guard-pulling jiu-jitsu fighters, especially when I have a knowledgeable fighter like Cory McKenna that's been doing martial arts since she was like 13 and is like a true hybrid MMA style fighter who's well-versed in the striking and the grappling, and I think she's physically strong. I hated this Amorim fight with Sam Hughes. Now, in the first round, Jaqueline Amorim's jiu-jitsu looks insane, and I think she could submit people. And I mean, it's not impossible that she subs up somebody like Cory McKenna. But the thing is, when it starts going against her, those damn panic defensive takedowns where she falls to her butt, shoots lightly, and then falls back, I just can't stand it. I can't stand it. Initially, when I saw this fight, I was like, maybe we'll go on Amorim by sub, but that Sam Hughes fight pisses me off. Now, she almost had a rear naked choke on Sam Hughes, so you could say, bro, but what if she gets under the neck of Cory McKenna? Understandable risk. I think the reason these odds are essentially even for this fight here is because there is a possibility that Jaqueline Amorim could get an early submission here. But if Cory McKenna can fend off grappling, she's going to outstrike Amorim. I think she'll touch her up. I think that even Cory McKenna from top position could be effective with ground and pound in this fight. I'm going to go with Cory McKenna by a decision win. But yeah, I'm not laying no money on that one. I wouldn't. It's even, -110 on both sides. Flip a coin with the ladies fight. Over 2.5 is -185. I think if McKenna's to win, it's probably going into the later stages. If it's Jaqueline Amorim, I'm expecting her to get it done early. Something to note, though. Look at the reach difference. You have 9.5 inches in reach favoring Jaqueline Amorim, who's the same height as Cory McKenna. I don't even know if that statistic is right because I don't trust it. I'm about to look it up on UFC stats. 68-inch reach for Amorim? That's crazy. At 5'3"? That's like a dude's wingspan. That's wild. We're looking it up right here. I don't want to skew the screen and bring it up in front of me, so I got it on the phone right here. Let's check this out. I know some of you are like, bro, you're spending so much time on this prelim. Listen, I want to know. I want to know my answer. Is the reach correct? Amorim's wingspan, 68. That's not wrong. I thought Tapology had it mismarked. Damn, Amorim does got some long arms, but she doesn't use range effectively. Not a good boxer. Amorim does have good length in her arms, which could lead her to subs. Good strangles. Let me pop out the Zin. But I'm going to go with Cory McKenna. I'm going with a more well-rounded MMA fighter. Neither of these girls are, ready for world title contention just yet. But McKenna, 24, she's developing. Elise Reed, close split decision. The Granger sub, the Vlismas win. And then the Conejo W, but Conejo's the bottom of the barrel as far as UFC strawweights go. And then, nearly beat Sam Hughes in the first, but then got beat up there afterwards. I think McKenna can pull it off. I think she could be like Sam Hughes, tough, gritty, hard to control on the ground, hard to submit. Maybe not hard to control because in the first round, Amorim was controlling her, but McKenna can be, and I think McKenna gets a decision on the cards. Next fight, we got Josh Culibao and Danny Silva. Listen, I'm picking Josh Culibao, but Danny Silva was in one of the best fights I've ever seen when he took on Angel Pacheco on Dana White's Contender Series, and both of them got contracts, and they went to absolute war with one another. I expect Danny Silva to be willing to bang with Josh Culibao, which could be a mistake, though. Culibao's got some decent pop in his hands. He's a pretty mobile striker, more mobile than Angel Pacheco. And even though I do think Danny Silva clearly won the fight, Pacheco did touch up Silva on the inside a bit. And I think Josh Culibao can definitely land nice punches on Danny Silva. It's just about Culibao. Does he chin him, man? He's like not necessarily known for the knockout, and he was getting outstruck bad by Meerschaert Bagdasarian. Then Lerone Murphy put a pace on him, but Lerone Murphy's world class. I think that Josh Culibao beats Danny Silva, but it might be a hard-fought 3 rounds. Silva's an interesting prospect, though. 27, both guys young, 29 and 27. I think Culibao is going to be a little more technical, a little more mobile, little more well-versed and well-rounded, and you got to take into consideration, right? He's got a good amount of UFC experience now. Took on Jalen Turner in the debut up a weight class, and, he had a draw with Charles Jourdain some fights ago, and then obviously the Lerone Murphy loss recently. Even though there's L's in the mix there, Josh Culibao's fought pretty stern opposition. I'm picking Culibao to pull this one off. I think he beats Danny Silva. I'll say we're going the distance, though. I do think Danny Silva's got a hell of a chin on him. Over 2.5 -185. It's going to be a sweaty bet if you're on that over because you got a battle of good strikers. -170 for Culibao. Danny Silva +145. Silva's got some KOWs in the mix, but does have a split decision loss a year and 2 months ago to Kawaye, who's a veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. I'm 99% sure he's 0-2. I think that Josh Culibao is going to pull it off against Silva. I think he'll be a little more effective with the stand-up. I think he's a bit more polished striking-wise. A little bit of that technical superiority, a little bit of that speed and explosiveness. I like Josh Culibao's chances, and I'm going to pick him over Danny Silva to get it done on the scorecards here, which should be a pretty good striking match. Next fight on the card, Thiago Moisés versus Mitch Ramirez. I'm picking Thiago Moisés to win. Respect to Mitch Ramirez, though. This is a big opportunity. Initial opponent for Thiago Moisés was supposed to be Brad Riddell, and Ramirez just recently stepped in. He has fought at 170, and if you remember him, he fought Carlos Prates on Dana White's Contender Series, and he got knocked out in that fight. Straight left landed, but he was getting touched up a lot there. And Prates is a savage, though. Mitch Ramirez is not bad. I think Thiago Moisés is going to win with the grappling. Like, how do you not favor the guy who's been in the UFC a long time? Pretty scrappy fighter in Thiago Moisés. decent wins in the UFC, beat Michael Johnson some time ago. And I think that the 11 UFC fights, the high-level jiu-jitsu experience, that's a factor. Ramirez is a guy that is pretty physically strong and has decent wrestling, and also he has nice hook flurries. But I feel like he's a bit heavy-footed. Definitely doesn't have the quickest movement, and sometimes I feel like he gets like stuck in the mud on the inside. Now, Thiago Moisés is not necessarily the striker to the level that's going to make you pay for those mistakes. I can see Ramirez getting caught and dropped, similar like how he did against Preux, moving up to, one of the better strikers at 155 pounds. But short notice, Thiago Moisés can grapple his ass off, man. He still went 4 rounds with Islam Makhachev. Even though he was very defensive in that fight, we got to give it some due respect. I think Moisés can win by submission here. I mean, you go from fighting Benoit Saint-Denis, who's top 15, and, just fought Dustin Poirier on Saturday. Granted, he lost, but he was doing very well up until he got, absolutely destroyed with punches. Mitch Ramirez is probably going to be outclassed and outmatched here, outpaced too. I think he gasses. I think Thiago Moisés is going to sub him. This fight here, like 2.5, almost 3 months ago against Tavares, watching that fight, something that I saw as an early stoppage, Jason Herzog jumped in real quick. I think that Ramirez landed really nice hooks in the fight, but I don't know, man. At times he looks sloppy on the feet. I know Thiago Moisés, though, stylistically is not the guy that's necessarily going to make you pay with these snappy counter shots, but I do see some flaws in Ramirez's striking, and I think Moisés, though, nonetheless, has a clear-cut grappling advantage, has the striking to match Ramirez, and I do think he gets this fight to where he's most comfortable, which is the grappling, and I think Moisés can get a submission, man. I'm going with the UFC veteran status. Odds for the fight, I don't believe they're released yet, but something to note is Moisés was a minus 210 favorite against Brad Riddell, and I assume Moisés to be pretty wide as a favorite here. I mean, short notice Ramirez, I can see Moisés at 3-1 with a clear-cut grappling edge, UFC experience advantage, and he's the younger guy too. I like Thiago Moisés to pull it off. I'm going Moisés win by submission over Mitch Ramirez in this fight here. Respect the short notice replacement though for hopping in, but he's taking an L. Next fight on the card, we have Osbourne versus Jafel Filho. I'm picking Filho. I think he's going to win by submission. Osbourne got subbed up in his last fight against Asu Almabayev, who's a good grappler who we saw fight Saturday, and put a good wrestling pressure and pace on CJ Vergara. Filho's got a good submission game. He nearly tapped out Mohamed Mokaev. He had him in a fully locked-in knee bar. It's just Mokaev doesn't tap. I mean, his knee was absolutely fucked up with that knee bar locked in, but he doesn't quit. So I see a big jiu-jitsu advantage. And it's not like Filho doesn't have some striking skill. He's got some power. He's won by knockout. Won by KO on Contender Series. Lost to Mokaev, and then a dominant win. He destroyed Daniel Barres with ease. Osbourne on the opposite side, he's a rangy kickboxer. He's pretty quick from the outside, and he does have good movement. A thing that I really like, though, here for Filho is the fact that we're also in the smaller cage, which is going to allow him to get Osbourne to the fence, where I think he can probably find trips or even a back take standing there. The CJ Vergara win at a Sheev knockout is horrible. Tyson Nam chinned him. Split with Charles Johnson, close fight, and then Almabayev subbing him. I'm going Filho winning by submission in this fight here. I think he can find the sub on Osbourne. I remember when he came to the debut in the UFC and Brian Kelleher locked him in that guillotine. Big upset in that fight there. We've seen Osbourne subbed numerous times, and I think Filho has a clear-cut jits advantage, and I expect him to be able to employ his will and put it on him, winning by sub. Filho is minus 170, the favorite. It's plus 145 for Osbourne on the opposite front. Under 2.5, minus 180. I do think it is going under 2.5. I think we got a high probability of finish here, man. I think Filho can find the submission. Osbourne, he's got a bit of sting in his hands, though. I mean, puncher's chance for sure. That's why I kind of like the under here. I'm going to go Filho to win, submission. I think he can get it. I'm kind of leaning second or third round sub, but the takedown should be there. He should be able to close the gap on Osbourne and probably find a neck and tap him out. But don't be shocked if he looks for legs too, because Filho showed that even in loss to Mokaev, nearly locking up a leg and destroying his knee. That was pretty damn impressive. And if you can put a guy to the level of grappling of Mokaev in positions like that, what can you do with Osbourne? We're going with Filho, submission. Next fight on the card is Josiane Nunes versus Chelsea Chandler. I'm picking Chelsea Chandler to win this fight. Josiane Nunes is essentially like the great value version of Jessica Andrade. Now, she is entertaining to watch. I like the hooks and like the weird style that she has and like the awkward frame of the oversized traps and like the really short neck. It makes, for the probability of her getting locked in a rear naked choke or guillotine, probably pretty low with that short neck. But Chelsea Chandler's a bullying style. She's got good striking. She has that, Diaz sister style. She trains with the Cesar Gracie team. She has jiu-jitsu skill, but not necessarily for submissions. I think she's very strong and heavy, and in top position, I can see her actually doing some damage to Josiane Nunes. The thing with Nunes is like we haven't seen her necessarily tested in the grappling department at all. And I think takedowns are going to be there, especially when she runs in with these hook flurries. Like I could see Chandler tying up with her, taking her down, whether it's a double leg or even a body lock trip, catching Nunes off balance. I don't think Chelsea Chandler is going to get teed off on by Josiane Nunes. I think she could hurt Josiane Nunes with strikes too. I'm kind of seeing the possibility of Chelsea Chandler getting on top and letting some ground and pound go. But don't be shocked if a rear naked strangle comes into play either. I know Chelsea Chandler, not necessarily known for the sub wins. I believe she has one win by submission, at least out of the last 5. Yeah, she got it almost 4 years ago now. I like the debut against Stoliarenko, who's a good grappler, and she put it on her. And then Norma Dumont beats her, but Norma Dumont's pretty world caliber. Yeah, I'm going with Chelsea Chandler to win, and this is a women's bantamweight fight. Note that both of these girls are normally women's featherweights. Nunes is only 5'2", so she should be able to make the mark, but I wonder if Chelsea Chandler is going to come in on weight. She does have a bit of body fat she could burn off, but that weight cut's going to be legit 10 pounds lower than where she was at before. I guess it's because they're absolving this women's featherweight division, which is honestly a good thing. I'm going to go Chelsea Chandler. I think she can win. I think that she's being slept on by the people here, 10% on Chandler. I don't know. Josiane Nunes looked okay against Zara Fern, but Zara Fern's horrible. Nunes is minus 153. Chandler plus 133. She opened at plus 130. I like the chance for Chelsea Chandler to win as a dog. Minus 153, Nunes on the opposite side. I think Chelsea Chandler can get her hand raised. I'm going with the underdog in this fight. I like Chelsea Chandler's game. Dog tough, dog mentality from Stockton, California. And she's got a size advantage, 6 inches taller, but she's just a naturally bigger girl. And I think you're going to see a strength difference. And I really can see her bullying Nunes from top position. So I'm going with Chelsea Chandler to get this thing done. Let's keep on running up. Next fight on the card, featured prelim, we have Mike Davis versus Natan Levy. I'm picking Mike Davis. I know that some people may be less familiar with Mike Davis because ultimately he's just not been consistent. He made his UFC debut nearly 5 years ago against Gilbert Burns, and he's really just been fighting one time a year, right? It averages out to one time a year. We haven't seen him in a year and a half since he beat Vyacheslav Barshev in a fight where, of course, the grappling is what truly won him the fight, but he had good striking moments as well. Mike Davis is a very well-versed MMA striker, and he also has good grappling to go alongside of that. The dude's a well-rounded fighter overall. Natan Levy is also a well-rounded guy too. It's like Levy is a lesser version of the capabilities of Mike Davis. Mike Davis is more of a physical specimen. He also has the better punching power. I think he could rock Natan Levy. Knocking Natan Levy out's not proven to be an easy task, though, because Natan Levy's pretty good. He's a southpaw. He's long. He's tricky to deal with from the outside. He does have decent takedowns and trips and his own ground skills that are there. But I do think Mike Davis can beat him. I think Davis can touch him with some good shots in the feet. I think he can land well-timed takedowns, find himself in top position. And I think Mike Davis is live to get this thing done by a decision. Now, I'd love to see him get a knockout. And I think, to build the hype and really move up the ranks, a Mike Davis finish would be huge here. But Natan Levy's 8-1, man. He's pretty good. Minus 270. Mike Davis is wide as a favorite. Plus 230 for Natan Levy. The over 2.5, minus 220. I think a lot of fights be going over this week. I like Mike Davis by a decision. I like Mike Davis to outwork Natan Levy, find dominant grappling spots, land significant strikes on the feet, and I think he's getting his hand raised after the 3 rounds. We're going Mike Davis for the win. And I'm looking forward to seeing him fight more consistently. And another note, right? Rafa Garcia lost, granted 2.5 years ago now, but something to mention. Mike Davis is definitely better than Rafa Garcia. So this is a tough test for Natan Levy. I don't think he's passing it. Next fight on the card, it brings us to our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Gerald Meerschaert versus Bryan Barberena. I'm picking Gerald Meerschaert. Ultimately, how I see it is Bryan Barberena has a flawed grappling game, and he is being matched up against a guy that has an exceptionally solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skill set. Now, I know Meerschaert's striking is necessarily, is not, I don't know, subpar is the word. Subpar as far as the upper echelon of the UFC. But I don't think subpar enough where he would be super vulnerable striking with Bryan Barberena for select periods of time and then looking to get the fight to the floor. Gerald Meerschaert, very tricky Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Bryan Barberena, suspect grappling. You look at Barberena's last 3 losses. RDA subbed him, Gunnar Nelson subbed him, and he got taken down a good amount by Mukhmud Muradov, who's a kickboxer. Meerschaert actually has a win by submission over Mukhmud Muradov. Something to note. That was some time ago now, but still a big win. Bruno Silva, Stoltzfus W, a Jocko loss in the mix, Joe Pyfer loss, and split decision with Andre Petroski. I know some people might have jumped off the Petroski bandwagon because Pereira knocked him out one shot, but look at Pereira. He just destroyed Oleg Jacek on Saturday. Gerald Meerschaert should be able to close the gap, get this fight to where he's most comfortable, and I think he finds a submission over Bryan Barberena, who just has a clear weakness in the grappling department, and it's even worse so at 185 pounds where he's at a disadvantage in physical strength. We're going with Meerschaert for the win. You look at the odds for the fight, minus 210 for Meerschaert, plus 180 Barberena. I think Meerschaert subs him under 2.5, minus 150 rather. I think it goes under. Bryan Barberena even lost to Jason Witt some time ago, and Jason Witt was getting chinned by pretty much everybody, but the takedown threat in that fight, he ends up beating Barberena on a decision. Yeah, I'm going with Gerald Meerschaert to win. I like the grappler in this fight. Barberena is just too suspect on the ground. I got to go Meerschaert. I got to go submission. Next fight on the card, ladies going after it. It's Pannie Kianzad versus Macy Chiasson 2. Ultimate Fighter Season 28 rematch. Macy Chiasson won their last fight, and I'm going to pick her to win again here. She was able to win the fight by rear naked choke, but Pannie Kianzad, before the rear naked choke, actually had a really nasty armbar attempt that Chiasson was able to counter and then lock up a submission rear naked. I think Chiasson still has that physicality edge. Pannie Kianzad and her are both like of similar levels. I feel like they've both progressed as fighters, and I think they've always been competitive in skill sets, with Chiasson just a little bit better, and then you got to add in the natural size advantage, right? The slight physicality edge. Now, a concern for me is, can Macy Chiasson make weight here at 135 pounds? She very well may be coming in over because she missed weight in some recent fights. Look at the last one, right? It was a 140 catchweight with Aldana, 145-pound fight with Dumana. And yeah, she missed weight against Raquel Pennington in a fight that she was finished. I'm picking Chiasson to win. I'm going to pick her by decision this time, though. Pannie Kianzad does have pretty decent boxing. I kind of think like this fight's going to look similar to the last one. Her takedown defense holds up a bit. Chiasson puts good pressure. I think Chiasson eventually finds this fight on the ground where she's most confident. I do think she'll have good work against the cage. I feel like Chiasson's still got that clinch grappling advantage. I'm going to go Chiasson to win it for a second time, man. As far as the odds, Chiasson minus 190, the favorite. Kianzad plus 165. The over is all the way up at minus 360. I do think Kianzad has improved enough so where she's not getting subbed up. And I do think that Kianzad lands some good punches in the fight, but ultimately ends up on her back and in detrimental spots. It's not so much Chiasson is going to do so much damn damage to her, but it's the fact that I think she's going to be effective enough to control significant portions of the fight and get it done on the judges' scorecards. I will be picking Macy Chiasson to go 2-0 against Pannie Kianzad and defend the Ultimate Fighter 28 crown, because this is an Ultimate Fighter finale rematch. And, you know, if Kianzad ends up coming out there and beating her, it, in a sense, steals that throne. But yeah, I do think it stays with Chiasson. Next fight on the card, Christian Rodriguez versus Isaac Dulgarian. I'm picking Isaac Dulgarian. I think he's going to beat Christian Rodriguez by knockout. Dulgarian doesn't leave the first round. The dude is an absolute explosive wrestler, savage ground and pound, big power, crazy physical strength, and I do believe he has skill set that can make it up the ranks fairly well. He's a little short for 145, but the current champ is a little short for 145, being Ilia Topuria. Christian Rodriguez is coming up from 135 pounds where he consistently had issues making weight. Now, Rodriguez is a pretty good kickboxer, and he has decent grappling skills in his own right, too. But when he ties up with Dulgarian, he is going to feel a different level of strength. And when they're on the ground, Dulgarian is a finisher. And I'm picking Dulgarian to finish off Christian Rodriguez. You look, recent wins for Rodriguez, he's on a 3-fight streak. He beat Joshua Weems, beat Raul Rosas, but was taken down a bit in that fight. Dulgarian would spin Rosas on his finger and throw him in a fucking trash can. That's the type of strength you're dealing with Dulgarian. There's a different level from the Midwest chopper to the 135-pound fighters that Rodriguez did well against. Cameron Simon win. Ultimately, Simon clearly lost the fight. Rodriguez at 35, though. Like, Rodriguez is a bantamweight. He just, having difficulty making the weight. I think Dulgarian's going to be a different beast. He destroyed Francis Marshall, who was a good prospect, got on top and beat the shit out of him. And Isaac Dulgarian, I think, is going to beat the shit out of Christian Rodriguez, too. I know Rodriguez has got a good game, and he trains with Rufus Sport. Obviously, that's Anthony Pettis and Sergio Pettis' team. And, he's around good MMA fighters, good minds, but I just think Dulgarian's a different beast. And I don't know. I'm high on Dulgarian. He's a Factory X Muay Thai guy, but he has a savage wrestling base. At 6-0, I think he's a savage, man. I think he's a savage. I'm picking him to get a knockout. Odds for the fight: plus 134 for Rodriguez, minus 154 for Dulgarian, with an under 2.5 at minus 105. I'll say it goes under. Dulgarian's got all finishes. First round, he's destroying everybody. He might lock up a sub here, so I think Dulgarian inside distance, throwing down on would be better than, trying to say definitely knockout, because he could submit Christian Rodriguez too, for sure. Look at this. Everybody on Tapology is picking Christian Rodriguez. He is like the people's underdog this week, and the line has not seen any movement. It's because Isaac Dulgarian is that guy. And I think Isaac Dulgarian is on his way to getting an impressive win. Christian Rodriguez is in a rude awakening when he goes back up to 45. He lost to Jonathan Pierce at 45. Midwest chop, Isaac Dulgarian's got different type of strength and even a good wrestler like Jonathan Pierce. Dulgarian for the finish. He gets it done, and I'm excited as hell. Next fight on the card, it brings us to our featured bout of the night. It's Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Ovince St. Preux. And I just have to say this straight out of the fucking gate. Ovince St. Preux is 40 now, nearly 41, and I don't think he's near the same fighter he once was. Nzechukwu, knockout. He's going to destroy Ovince St. Preux. It's going to be sad to see. I like Nzechukwu as well. I'd say I'm a fan of Nzechukwu, but I am an OG OSP fan. I discovered OSP in Strikeforce back when he was 8 wins and 4 losses. I remember the record. I was like, damn, this guy's got a kind of mid-record. And then he turned out to be pretty decent. Tricky style, awkward on the ground, awkward in the striking, sneaky power. He's done great things in his career. Went 5 rounds with John Jones. Knocked out Shogun Rua. But you see the level of him now. Felipe Lins dispatched of him in 1 round. Felipe Lins is decent, but who the fuck is he knocking out in 1 round like that inside of the UFC? Split decision with Shogun in the rematch. And Shogun, that was the corpse of him. Tanner Bozier destroyed him. Jamal Hill destroyed him. Granted, the Jamal Hill knockout don't look too bad because Jamal Hill's a savage. Then Alonzo Menafield knockout. OSP, after that Jamal Hill fight, after that Bozier fight, it just dwindled down. And that was a heavyweight experiment for him against Bozier. Dwindled down. He's not the same. Kennedy Nzechukwu is a large man at 205 pounds. And he does have some pop in his hands. He's not the most technical striker, but I don't think that matters here with OSP. And the things that made OSP great were his unorthodox striking, right? But to have that weird style, especially against the best guys in the world, the reflexes have to be very on point because Ovince St. Preux has technical deficiencies in the stand-up, but he made up for them with freak athleticism, sneaky power, awkwardness, and unpredictability. I think Nzechukwu's catching him. Big shot, beating him up. I can see Nzechukwu even subbing up OSP. It's one-way traffic. I don't think St. Preux can take a clean shot from Kennedy Nzechukwu. And I'm going knockout Nzechukwu. He rights the wrong after he got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby. We've seen Nzechukwu chinned a couple times. But he runs through the OSP level. Carl Roberson win, Kute Laba win, Clark win. The submission could be live, but OSP getting touched on the chin and falling is just what I'm seeing here. I think Nzechukwu's going to destroy him. Nzechukwu's a minus 500 favorite. OSP plus 375. I think we're going under 1.5. Yeah, man. I think OSP is getting chinned in the first round. This is the corpse of OSP. He's not the same. He's not the same. I think that he's fought a bit too long, man. He's taken a lot of damage throughout his run as well. And I think Kennedy and Nzechukwu is catching him at a perfect time. And I think he's chinning Ovin St. Preux. And he'd have a tricky frame to deal with even for a prime OSP. Granted, I think prime OSP would knock him out. It's just OSP now. Nah. Almost 10-year age difference. I'm going with Nzechukwu, the African savage, to knock out Ovin St. Preux in the first round brutally. Next fight is our co-main event of the evening. Bryan Battle versus Loosa. I'm going to be picking Bryan Battle to win. Battle is battle-tested. Sorry for the dumb pun, but it's true. Dude takes a big shot and has recovered and come back from it. He won the Ultimate Fighter. He's got a quality gas tank. Decent striking skill set alongside of a good grappling game. Now, Loosa is a much more imposing physical threat than Bryan Battle. He's a more heavy-handed guy, arguably, than Bryan Battle, too, even though he's not getting these knockouts necessarily. Loosa lands big shots. He busted up Reese McKee last time out. The thing with Loosa that he doesn't have here is I don't think he has the takedown option here with Bryan Battle in the later stages of the fight, and I think the gas tank favors Bryan Battle. I like the length of Battle, too. I think Bryan Battle is going to find a submission in, like, the third round here. I think he might choke out Loosa in round 3. I think first round, Bryan Battle might have hell to deal with because Loosa has some pop in his hands. He's strong. He blitzes forward with pressure. He'll come on the inside, and he's strong and close. So Bryan Battle's going to have to deal with a dangerous guy in round 1. But assuming he survives that early storm, which I do predict he's going to, I think he starts finding strikes. I think he can even find top position, and I think he finds the neck of Loosa. I'm going Bryan Battle to win by submission. I like his game. I like the Ultimate Fighter winner. We're team Bryan Battle for the win. He's taking out Loosa here. Battle's minus 150, the favorite. Loosa, a plus 130 underdog. Under 2.5, plus 185. I'm going to say we're going under here. I think Bryan Battle wins by submission. I'm picking him to finish Loosa by sub. I like the ground skills. I like the gas tank later in the fight. I like the trickiness of Bryan Battle overall. The length is there. And I think Loosa is going to end up getting finished by Bryan Battle. I think he'll have big moments, but I do think even Loosa having big moments, that could be his downfall because he's going to look to stop Battle. And I think Battle's toughness keeps him in it, could recover from some early storms, and I think he could finish off Loosa by sub. We're going Bryan Battle in the co-main event to win by submission. You guys know I got to rep with my guy, Bryan Battle, to get it done. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Tuivasa versus Meerschaert Tybura. I'm picking Tuivasa to absolutely chin Meerschaert Tybura. I think it's live in the first round. I know that Tuivasa is on a bad roll right now. He's lost 3 in a row. Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, Cyril Gane. All top caliber guys. All guys that could beat Meerschaert Tybura. You know, guys that have beaten Meerschaert Tybura. Volkov got a dominant decision over Tybura. Now, last time Tybura got absolutely chinned by Tom Aspinall, one big shot, but he was on a 2-fight win streak. He beat Blagojevic by decision and then Romanov by decision, which he had a horrible first round, but he was able to come back from that and win. Lost to Volkov, you see there, and then a win against Walt Harris. He had bad moments in that fight. Tuivasa has the punching power to knock Meerschaert Tybura out. We've seen Meerschaert Tybura fights where he absorbs insane amount of damage early on, and then that jiu-jitsu black belt comes in handy because he gets fighters to the ground, he beats them up from top, or he submits them. The thing is, Tuivasa, regardless of some recent losses, I think is more calculated and precise than some guys that have done damage to Meerschaert. I got a cough, guys. I think that Tuivasa is going to be able to take out Meerschaert Tybura by knockout. Watch for the overhands, nasty leg kicks. I just see Tybura getting flattened. I see them on a hook lands, and Tybura goes flat out. Vicious KO win for Tuivasa, and he bounces back after a 3-fight losing streak. We need this to happen because Tuivasa, we need him on an Australia card in another big fight. I love Tuivasa. Who doesn't? He's got a fan-friendly style. The dude's killer be killed. He's been in some of the best heavyweight fights in the UFC. He has bounced back from a 3-fight losing streak early in his run, right? So we've seen it before. I think he's going to bounce back now as well. Tybura's advantage is in the grappling department, but I just don't think he can take the bombs and early attack from Tuivasa. I'm going to pick Tuivasa to chin him. Vicious knockout. Minus 125 for Tuivasa. Plus 105 Tybura. Wow, the under 1.5 is plus 155. Interesting. Tuivasa live for a first round KO. I think he can catch Tybura cold and absolutely flatten him. We've seen Tybura knocked out before. He's not, impossible to be chinned. He got knocked out in a minute in his last fight. He got knocked out bad a long time ago against Augusto Sakai. We've seen him rocked in other fights, even fights that he won. But Tuivasa is just a little bit of a level turn. And I think the skill and the stand-up is undeniable. Regardless of the flabby frame of Tuivasa, he's a high-caliber fighter. And, he dropped Cyril Gane some fights ago. We still have to give him respect for that. Yeah, he lost the fight, and then he lost fights thereafter. But I think he can, snap it back on to a streak. And I think he can get some W's once again. I'm going Tai Tuivasa by knockout. And I think big things coming as far as at least entertaining fights for Bam Bam Tuivasa. We're going with the main event pick of Ty. Knockout. Going with the striker. That is UFC Vegas 88. Hope you guys enjoyed. Still dealing with a slight cold, but feeling a bit better. Much love to everybody watching. I appreciate every one of you. Make sure you smash the likes. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and make sure to share the video too. Drop your picks in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you got nothing to say in the comments, but you just enjoy the content, as always, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Much love, my people, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.